Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Top of the morning, planet Earth, and to all you manly men out there, a hearty and healthy Irish hello. You're listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly, here on the only, the greatest, the latest. I'm trying to think of another word that rhymes, but nothing's coming. KOWSLP 92.5 on the dial, FM, F for Frank, M for Matilda. Let's get some special effects. That's the best I could do on such short notice. Occidental in California, we are the voice of community radio here in Sonoma County and in Northern California. Now, welcome everyone. Now, I know there's a lot of people listening out there, a lot of emails and texts and all that stuff that I got for the show today. And I've been asked to do this show. I mean, I have a lot of people that email me and say, hey, Dermot, can you do a show about this? Can you do a show about this? And today's show is no different. Today's show is all about how to stop worrying. You know that thing that you do when you're trying to figure out something, especially for men. We tend to worry about everything, and it's all in our heads. It's never actually happening on the planet. It's just happening in our heads. And the ladies, God bless them, and welcome, ladies. I know there's quite a few. Even though it's a talk show for men, I know that there's a lot of ladies that listen into the show. Welcome to all of you out there. I think we got people listening from Germany, Ireland, of course, California, New York, Canada. That's pretty cool. We got quite the eclectic group of people that listen in every week. So to that, I thank you. We're going to be talking today about how to stop worrying and start making some money. Now, whether it's personally, whether it's in your own personal life, or whether it's professionally, whether you want to start creating a business, it's the very same thing. It's all the same mindset. So there's three things that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about, in the first part of the show, the nature of thought. You could also call that now the nature of worry, or the nature of the human experience. What is worry? Where does it come from? And how can we stop ourselves from worrying? And then I'm going to share with you 7 questions to solve all your problems. I took quite a bit of time with these questions as a professional life coach, and I'm also a trainer of life coaches for college. Questions are the answers. And so I wanted to come up with 7 questions that really solidified, clarified, really got to the heart of the matter when you're struggling with a problem, what you can do about it, and how you can move into a solution. So it's the 7 questions to solving all your problems. And then we're going to talk about what if you could, or what if you would, or what if you should, if you could think, create, and act just for fun as opposed to results. You see, as manly men, we are designed by nature, or by the big G, whoever that big guy in the cloud is, the big cheese. We're designed by him or her or they or it to be very logical and to think about things through. But see, the problem with that is that we can't think our way through emotions. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking today is the nature of thought, in terms of we live in a world of thought and feeling. A better way of saying that is we live in the feeling of our thoughts. In other words, we have thoughts and then we get a feeling. And that feeling creates an experience. And that experience we call reality. And that reality is what we act upon. Now, I'm going to get into this today because it's powerful, powerful stuff. So this is not about, now today's show, there's nothing to learn or to do or to figure out or remember. Simply listen to the show today, and I'm going to be talking about stuff that's going to point you in a direction, so that you can have your own insights, that you can have your own experiences, that you can have your own intuitive hits onto how to move forward in the direction you want to go. And if you don't know what direction, then today's show will help you to start looking in a few different directions to see what will work for you. See, now, when we talk about money, it's very interesting. We talk about money. Money can't buy you peace. they say, right? I heard this growing up a lot, but probably because we didn't have money. But it could certainly buy you a nice big house that you could meditate in, and that in itself could be pretty peaceful, you know. I'm laughing here because I was thinking about the show this morning, and I was thinking about all the things that, you know, my parents or my mother or father used to say about money, and they'd often say to me, Dermot, the money doesn't buy you happiness. And to that, I'd say, Dad, you're absolutely right, but it certainly beats being broke. You know what I mean? I had this when I was in my 20s. I had this type of thing going on where when people asked me about money, I would simply say to them, you know, money doesn't mean anything to me. And they would say, really? And I'd say, yeah, ask me for some money and you'll get nothing. You see, I told you. I was thinking, you know, speaking of thinking, we're going to be talking a lot about that today. Descartes, right? The great philosopher Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And I'd like to give you the Irish version of that, which is, I think, therefore I worry a lot. But we're going to be talking about that today in terms of the nature of thinking and worry and how they're so related. And you're going to find out that it's not about trying to stop worrying. You can't stop yourself from worrying, by the way. You can't stop a moving train by standing in front of it. You know what I mean? We live in a universe of thought. Thought is constantly coming and going. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And this idea of worrying about money. You know, worrying about money, it's about as useful as putting a pair of jeans on a fish. It does nothing for the fish, and it shrinks the nice jeans. So we're going to be talking about how not to put a pair of jeans on a fish. I'm thinking about that one. That could be strange. I made, I don't know if you guys know this, but I made $1 million last week in the stock market. Yeah. And I found the best way, I'm going to share this tip with you. The best way, if you want, like me, to make $1 million in the stock market, simply start with 2 million and you'll make $1 million. Think about it. My friends, you know, they complain all the time about saving money and how they're not able to save money. Have you got friends like this? I don't know what it is, Dermot, but I can't seem to save money. My problem is I don't have a problem saving money. It's getting money that's the problem. And if I'm going to stop myself, well, if you want to stop yourself worrying about money and you want to start making some money, I'll share a little thing that I used to do in the past. I don't do it anymore, but I did do it. Simply borrow money from your friends and then forget who you borrowed it from. Or if you like, you could borrow it. This is terrible. You could borrow it from people on Facebook because they're not really your friends. They kind of just look like they are. So maybe you could buy, I don't know. Maybe, you know. I'll tell you what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on the day when all my debt is paid off and I can simply just go back to worrying about being broke. That will be a nice day, a nice day for me. It'll be a nice day for my bank balance when it goes back to zero. I'd be happy with zero. I'd be really happy with zero. I reckon my bank balance is like, I was looking at onions the other day at the supermarket and I thought, my bank balance is exactly like this onion. Because every time I look at it, I just want to cry. Ever had that? Or maybe that's my wallet. Actually, it might be both. My bank wallet, my bank balance and my wallet is like an onion. It makes me cry. Yeah. Believe it or not, I had the bloody bank called me up yesterday. Did you ever have this happen where the bank calls you up? The bank called me up yesterday and said, Mr. Bodley. For some reason, they always had the very authoritative voice. I'd love for the bank to call me up someday and just go, "Hello, Mr. Butterly, this is the bank." But we never get that, do we? We always get the guy, "Mr. Butterly, this is the bank. You have insufficient funds." And I said, I know that. Can you lend me $20? And he said, "No, we can't lend you $20. Now, when are you going to pay this off, Mr. Butterly?" And I thought to myself, I took a minute and I thought about it. And I said, okay, well, I said, "What's your name?" "John." For some reason, it's always John. His last name is probably Smith. I said, "Well, John," I said, "let me ask you this, John." I said, I'll answer that with a question. I'll answer that question with a question. How long would it take me to get a loan with your bank? And there was a slight bit of silence on the phone. About 21 days, Mr. Butterly." I said, okay, well, you've got your answer, John. He didn't like that. He was not impressed by that at all. Insufficient funds. Why do you think the bank has to call us up and just rub it in that we got insufficient funds? It's like, I know I got insufficient funds. And most of it is because the bank charged me $20 for the first insufficient fund, and then that cascaded into about 20 insufficient funds. And now I'm $500 in insufficient funds, where I was only $20 at the start of it. You ever have that happen? I've had that happen more times than I've had breakfast. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? No, it's not. Oh, funny. You know, here's funny money. Did any of you guys out there know, and ladies, do you know about funny money? Yeah. Yeah, my mom used to call it funny money. And it's the kind of money that it makes you laugh every time you think about how much of it you don't have. Yeah, and I thought, well, Mom, that's great, but I'm going to label it as sad money. And my mother said, well, what do you mean by sad money, Dermot? Well, she would have said, oh, what do you mean, Dermot, about sad money? And I said, well, Mom, I said, sad money, that's the money you did have until you spent it all. And where you spent it is like the Bermuda Triangle. It's a complete and utter mystery. I mean, for all we know, maybe you lost it in the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, my money is like this. My money disappears before it even has a chance to travel anywhere. Is there anyone with that problem? You know, it's the traveling money. I either have the traveling money going on or I have the talking money. My money says, hello, Dermot. Goodbye, Dermot. And pretty much in that order. I want my money to come someday and say, hello, Dermot. How are you? I'm going to stay a while. Would that be okay with you? That would be very nice. That would be very nice. All right. All joking aside, we're going to be talking today about the nature of thought. So let me start the show off with a question. Here's a question for you. Since questions are the answers, and I'm a life coach, and I ask my clients a lot of questions. They often ask me, Dermot, why do you ask so many questions? And I say, because you're paying me a lot of money to. And that usually gets a laugh sometimes, and sometimes it gets a 2-minute quiet time. We're like, is this worth it? Of course it is. Of course it is. All right. So let's jump into our show here. You're listening. If you just joined us, you're listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Let's play the new. This is the new music for the show. I don't know if you guys like it, but I thought I'd play it just for the hell of it. See if you like it. It's kind of happy-go-lucky music. I kind of like it. Got a little bit of an Irish jig to it. You can dance along to it a little bit if you like. You can stretch your legs to it. You can do some yoga poses. Take a break while I'm talking, and then at just the right moment, it'll come right back in. Just like that. It's called super happy Irish music. I'm feeling very happy. Just listening to it. All right. Enough of that nonsense. All right, welcome to the show, everyone. Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. We're talking today about stop worrying, start making some money. Now, here's the question. What would you or could you create if you didn't have an agenda? What would you or could you create without an agenda? You see, here's one of the things that stops us in our tracks from creating real magic. And when I say real magic, I'm talking about the stuff that paintings, that philosophers, that, artists are made from. The stuff that has you just go, wow. Where you know it wasn't you. You know what I mean? It's like, that wasn't me. That was something bigger. That was the head honcho, the big cheese, the big whipper whopper, whatever you want to call the big guy upstairs or girl. What would you or could you create without an agenda? You see, we create things all the time, but we have an agenda, even either before we create them, during, or right after. We have an agenda. We want to get a result. We want to, if I create this, it better get me some clients. If I create this, it better give me the experience of being happy. If I get that person to do that, then I will feel in control. I will feel happy. I will feel joyful. I will feel sexy. Whatever it might be. But what if you could take a little project? Now, Rome wasn't built in a day, so you can start small. And I do this all the time. It's a wonderful exercise. And I take a little project and I just say, okay, like for instance, yesterday, the bathroom, right? Both sinks on the bathroom. There's one each side, mine and hers. And what if you could just take a little project like I did yesterday, the bathroom, and I didn't have an agenda. Now, of course, I had, an intention to say, hey, I'm going to clean the bathroom so the water's flowing. But my agenda on it, the heaviness, if you like to call it, was not, I better make the water flow. And I better unblock the sinks. And by the way, the little lady sink was a little more blocked than mine. Let me just throw that out there. Of course, I don't have any hair, so that's probably part of the problem there. Whereas my little lady has some beautiful, beautiful Indian hair. So that probably had a little something to do with it. Anyway, I took it all out of the sink and dried it out, and I made a little wig for myself, just in the days that I'm feeling a little bald. But, okay, that was a bit weird, I know. So, but I hadn't got an agenda. I simply was doing it for the fun of doing it. And I didn't put a time limit on it. I had an approximate, okay, it's going to take me about, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And, I had an idea of, okay, what I want to do. I had an idea of kind of how I was going to do it. But after that, I didn't really have a big agenda. And it's very interesting when you come from that place. Now, I'm not saying that everyone goes out and blocks the sinks, but although it's a good place to start. Take some project that you have, a little project, and put no agenda on it. In other words, a better way of saying that is have no result of I'm going to get this from this if I do that. Right? That's such a manly thing, right? Because we're programmed to fix things. All right? Just ask your little lady the next time she starts talking about emotions. We want to go in there and fix them. Wrong. Don't do it, gentlemen. Don't do it. Very dangerous. Would not suggest to do that at all. You got to listen. They want you just to listen. And that's not easy for men because we want to act. We want to act. We want to get into action. Now, which is part, by the way, of the cure for worrying. We're going to talk about that just a little bit later. Now, take a little project, Don't put an agenda. Like, think about it this. Do you think that the people who have kids, they have an agenda? Oh, yes. Okay, let me think, honey. Let's make a kid. And I'll tell you what, the kid, we're going to make him do this, this, and this, and this, so that we can get this, this, and this, and this. There's no real agenda. Now, maybe you were, wanting to make some love that night. That's all fine. That might have been the agenda. But there was no agenda placed on making the baby. In the same way that, you make your bed, not because you have to, although in some houses you might have to, but you make the bed because, well, it's just a thing to do. You make the bed because later on you're going to sleep in it, and it might feel better if it's made. You make the bed because maybe it looks better than have it, tossed during the day. But you don't place this big agenda on making the bed. And this is one of the things that holds us back from making money, is that we start to think about, okay, how can I make money? Which is the wrong question, by the way, because you're already into how, right? And the how can stop the dream quicker than a but, right? How and but, big dream killers. And so when we look at the nature of thought, so let's talk a little bit about the problem and the solution here. So the problem is that when we worry about something, we stop the flow. When we get stressed about something, we're starting to push against it, right? You've heard the old adage of what you resist persists. It's absolutely true. When we start pushing against or putting on our own agenda on something, trying to control an outcome for a situation, we block off the flow that could have been there, except for we put an agenda. Now, there's nothing wrong with having an outcome. There's nothing wrong with saying that, hey, listen, I'm going to make the bed because the outcome is having a nice bed and I'll sleep really great tonight. There's nothing wrong with creating a project and having an outcome for the project. But when we place an agenda, when we place this big result of, if I do that, I better get this, and it cuts off the flow of ideas. It cuts off the flow of creativity. It cuts off the natural flow of intuition, ideas, exploration, imagination that could have been there had you have just relaxed a little bit. You see, most people, they don't need to worry more. They need to think less. And when we talk about the problem is not our thinking. The problem is our thinking about our thinking. So let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, again, I'm pointing you in a direction of something here today. You don't need to understand it, figure it out, intellectualize it. Simply hear it, and you will have your own experience of what I'm talking about at some point, either during the show or after the show or a week later. You'll have an experience of this. We live in a thought-created world. We live in the feeling of our thinking, which means that we have a thought. Now, I like to think of thoughts like they're, McDonald's, the way you go up to there's a line of cars, call them thoughts, and they're all going up to the window to order. And there I am standing at the window waiting for my thoughts. They're all lined up. Forget about trying to stop the thoughts coming. That's like trying to stop the line at the fast food place. You cannot do it. You cannot do it by simply standing in front. But what you can do is, let's say you're there at McThoughts. We'll call them McThoughts. And all your thoughts are lined up, which they're constantly coming. We live in a thought-created universe. We live in a universe of thought, and we live in a universe that's thought-created. And they're lined up, so the thoughts are coming. They're just coming. Thoughts constantly flow. You can't do anything about that. Stop trying to stop your thoughts. You cannot do it. That's the first thing. You can't stand in front of a freight train and pray that it's going to stop. It won't. In the same way that you cannot pray your thoughts away. You cannot affirmate your thoughts away. You cannot imagine your thoughts away. So what can you do, Dermot, is the question. That's the big question today. You can start to realize that, hey, okay, if we live in a universe of thought, and thoughts are constantly coming, and my thoughts are like Mac thoughts at Mac thoughts, I can notice them, and when a thought comes that I want to engage with, I will open my window at Mac thoughts, and I will engage with that thought. I'll take the order from that thought. All right, Mr. Thought, you're up. You're here. I saw you way back there. Now you're here. You're up at the window. What do you want to order? Well, Dermot, I've got this great idea on how to make money. Oh, yeah? Well, tell me a little bit about it. Well, it goes like this. You know, I was thinking about if you made a video, because you like creating videos and you like making videos and you love music. What if you made a video and you sold it on Amazon for blah, blah, blah? And here's the idea that I had. How to help people to stop worrying by simply noticing what they're worrying about and relaxing. Well, that sounds pretty good. Tell me a little bit more about that, Mr. Thought. So we take a thought and we start thinking about it. Right? What is thinking? Thinking is a thought that you take and you start thinking about it. What is a belief? A belief is a thought that you start thinking about that you now believe. Right? Or a thought that you keep thinking about. That's a belief. Are you still with me? Don't try to figure it out. Just listen and have some fun today. Nothing to figure out. It will come. So, we have a thought. We start thinking about that thought. That thought creates an experience. It creates an emotion, a feeling. That feeling creates an experience, and that experience creates our reality. And that reality is what we focus on. Now, the challenge or the problem that we have as human beings, and by the way, if you have this problem, you're not alone. You may have 6 or 7 billion other people with the same problem. Trust me on that one. So what do you do when you get this thought, you turn it into thinking? We start to put an agenda on, okay, well, what's the result going to be? And then we start worrying about the result. We start worrying about what it's going to look like down the road, what it's going to look like when it's finished. What results am I going to get from it? What's the outcome that I'm going to get? What am I going to get from it? Will I make enough money from this idea to pay my rent and buy food for the month? Now, here's a question for you. What are you doing? What are you doing when you get your best money-making ideas? Is it when you're worrying? I bet the answer is no. So what are you doing when you get your best money-making ideas? Now, this morning, what I do every Friday morning, typically is I have a big, huge whiteboard, and it's blank. And I bring it downstairs and I put it in the carport, so I'm outside, so I got some space, some fresh air. And I think about the topic that I want to talk about, and I just point myself in the direction of that topic. So today was all about stop worrying, start making money. And I just started putting my attention, very lightly, very nicely, very softly, in that direction. I didn't start worrying about, are people going to listen to the show today? How many people are going to like the show today? How many people are going to like me on Facebook? I simply pointed myself in the direction of, hey, Dermot, I want to talk about this subject. So give me some jokes and give me some stuff around the nature of thought, because I want to talk about that today. Now, I've talked about this quite a few times in the show, so it was very easy for my mind to give me that. But I had no agenda on what it was going to look like when it was done. I had no agenda at all. I simply started to focus myself in the direction that I wanted to go. And I know that when I go outside, and sometimes I take my shoes off, and there's a field next to my house, and I walk around the field, and I just hold very gently in my head that thought of, hey, I want to have a show about stop worrying, start thinking, start making money. and ideas come to me. But where we get caught up, ladies and gentlemen, is that we get an idea for something. We're like, wow, this is a great idea. And right away we go into how. How am I going to do this? What's it going to look like? How am I going to get people to listen to this? Instead of just focusing on creating the idea. I got a question for you. There's a second question. So the first question today was, what would you or could you create if you didn't have an agenda? What would you love to create in your life if your thinking wasn't stopping you from doing it? What if you could think, create, and act just for fun and not for results? Let me ask you that again. Put your feet flat on the floor. Take a deep breath in through your nose into your belly and exhale out your mouth. And play with this thought for a moment. Today's show is just about playing and having fun. We're going to educate you and share some great information, but it's really about just having fun. You'll get what you need to get. You don't have to memorize this or learn it, or if there's something, write it down that, triggers something. But just listen to the show. That's enough that you've got to do today. So what if you could think, create, and act just for fun and not for results? What projects would you do? What experimenting would you do? What ideas would you allow yourself to start to focus on or work on? How would you use your imagination to create something very shagadelic, baby? What if you could think, create, and act just for fun and not results? So ponder that question, and we're going to take a quick little break here. And we'll be right back. Just join us. Welcome. You're listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly on KOWS 92.5 FM. F for Frank, M for Matilda. That was meant to be a sheep. Occidental California. If you're listening to us on the wild and wacky and wonderful web, that is KOWS.FM. F for Frank, M for Matilda on the dial. Welcome to the show, everyone. Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly. Today we're talking about the nature of thought. Today we're talking about how do you stop worrying and start making some money for yourself. Here's the key to it all. I gotta tell you a secret. Can you keep a secret? Can you? Can you? Well, yes, Dermot. My name's Sean Connery, and I can absolutely keep a secret. Wonderful, Mr. Connery. Let me share a secret with you. I have found in my life that the best way to stop worrying is to start acting. Isn't it interesting? We worry when we are thinking. And we think to worry. And we think that worrying will solve the thing that we're thinking about. It never, ever, ever does. You know what does? If you want to stop worrying, now, and I share this from my own life because I found it to be true. If you want to stop worrying and start creating, if you want to stop worrying and start making money, if you want to stop worrying and start creating the life that you want, all you got to do is get into action. The best cure for worrying is action. You ever notice that? You ever notice that when you're building something or creating something, you're not worried about it? You ever notice that? Clients, my clients, they're always worried about something. They come in, they tell me I'm worried about this and I'm worried about that, Dermot. How do I stop worrying? How do I stop myself from thinking or worrying? And by the way, thoughts turn into thinking, thinking turns into worry, and worry turns into I can't, I'm not able, I don't know how, I've got writer's block, you fill in the blanks, ladies and gentlemen, fill in the blanks. So my clients are always saying, they're always saying, like, I'm always worrying, Dermot. And I say, really? So when you're sleeping, are you worrying? Well, no, not when I'm sleeping. What about when you're eating? Are you worrying when you're... No, not when I'm eating, of course. How about when you're having sex? Do you worry about, things when you're having sex? Well, no. I mean, no, not then. How about when you're playing with your kids or laughing or watching the television? Or are you worrying then? Well, no, not those times. So you're not always worrying. And they got to think about that, because sometimes, gentlemen, the language that we use, we're just not conscious of it. I'm always worried. I'm worried about this. This thing is on my mind 24/7. And it's not true. You tell yourself it's true, but it's not true. I remember one of the trainers at the college that I train at. I train life coaches to become life coaches. People become life coaches, and he was doing this. This class in Russia, and this man was getting some coaching around his relationship with his wife. He was fighting with his wife all the time, and the coach said to him, "Listen," he says, "when are you not fighting with your wife?" And he said, "When we're sleeping." And I thought that was just a great answer. Maybe the only time that a lot of us do not worry. So here's a little strategy for something for you to think about. What if you could think, create, and act just for fun, not results? So whether you're listening to the show live today on the radio or at KOWS.FM on the web, or whether you're listening to it through YouTube. Here's a question for you. Make a list of 5 things that you want to do. Right? Just 5 things that you want to do. And by the way, I do this most days. Make a list of 5 things that you want to do. Or you could say, write 5 things. This is better even. 5 things that you worry about. 5 things that you worry about, that you'd like to do, but you worry about that you can't do them. Well, I don't have the skills. I don't have a vision for that. I can't really get into action there. I don't know how to do it, where to do it, when to do it, why to do it. Don't have a vision for it. Don't have the capabilities. Right? Whatever it is, the story you tell yourself. And write those 5 things down on a piece of paper. 5 things that you want to do. And then prioritize them in terms of importance. 1 is not important, and 10 is the most important. And prioritize those 5 things in terms of like which one is the most important for you to do first. Right? So let's say you got take out the garbage. That might be one thing. Make a phone call for a sale. That might be 2 things. And write which in order in terms of importance. 1 is not important. 10 is the most important to do. 5 would be in the middle. And write them. Which ones are the most important on the numbers. Write a scale for each of them. And then the one with the least amount of importance, start with that one first. Right? One of the things that stops us in our tracks when we are trying to make more money, when we're trying to create something beautiful in the world, something valuable in the world, something that's going to help people in the world, we start with the hardest things first. And have you noticed that when you start with the hardest things first, you usually don't do them? You usually get sidetracked. Oh, let me check LinkedIn here or Facebook, or let me make this call, and let me go downstairs and make a cup of tea. Let me do this, and let me do that, and let me do this. You got to take those things, those 5 things, and in the morning write them on a board, on a piece of paper. Scale them from 1 to 10 in terms of importance. 1 is least important, 10 is the most important. And then start with the easiest one. Start with the least important one. Hey, I got to take out the trash. Okay, go ahead and complete that task in that moment. Go ahead, take out the trash. Do you ever notice that sometimes it takes more energy to think about something than it actually does to do it? You ever have that? You've been thinking about, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I was thinking about the doing the sink, unblocking the sink for 2 months. And it would get, every day I'd put the water in it, and it would take half an hour for the water to go down. And it used to annoy the heck out of me. And I thought, no, I'm going to do that today. And then I wouldn't do it. Now I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I wouldn't do it. And yesterday I finally says, I'm doing that now. It's getting done today. There is a power. There is a ferocity. There is an incredible feeling that you get when you take something and you complete it. It doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is, especially for men, because we love to finish things. We love to fix things, and we love to finish things. So the nature of thought is that we take those things that are the smallest, the easiest to do, and we do them first. Now, what's interesting in the world that I come from, the world of self-development, the world of life coaching, a lot of people will tell you, take the hardest thing first. But a lot of us, we will never do the hardest thing first. We'll come up with all the excuses not to do it. But an object in motion will stay in motion. An object at rest will stay at rest. Right? Newton's law of motion. So if you start with something small, you start to create some motion. Just like think about it like a snowball on a hill. If you were to take the biggest snowball on the hill and try to move it, you couldn't do it. But if you wanted to create the biggest ball on the hill, and you took a little small ball and you started rolling it, and you were pushing it along till it got to the edge of the hill, and then it started to roll by itself. Now, you can do this with anything, any projects that you have. This will get you into action. When we're taking action on something, we're usually not worrying about it too. And why that is? Well, because we're men. We can't multitask. We can only do one thing at a time. If we're doing something, we're not worried about it. But if we're not doing it, then we're worried about it. Do you ever notice that? Do you ever notice when you're thinking, you're worrying about something, and when you're not thinking, you're not worried about it? Ever notice that? Isn't that interesting? I think that's incredible. All right, let's take a little break here, everyone. We're going to play our little our little Irish jig for you, and we'll be right back. Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly on KOWS.FM. If you're listening live on the web, or 92.5 FM if you're listening in your car or on your radio at home. All right, welcome back, everyone. We are talking about how to stop worrying and start making some money. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to just make some money, to worry less and to make more money? So, I'm going to share I said I would. I'm a man of my word. I'm going to share with you 7 questions to solve all your problems. Now, you can write these down, or you can simply take a moment, put your feet flat on the floor. By the way, if you're trying to solve a problem, if you're worrying about something, did you ever notice that when you're worrying, you tend to have your legs crossed, you tend to have your arms folded, and you tend to not have your feet flat on the floor. Do you ever notice that when you're worrying? And you'll usually have your head down. Now, try this experiment. Look up a little bit and smile. Just look up above the sight line of your gaze. Look up and smile. You can't worry, can you? It's impossible. You can't do it. Do you know that they cured 95% of these 100 people who came in with depression, who were depressed? And all they had them do for a month, every morning for 5 minutes, they stood in front of the mirror and smiled. Now, I'm not saying this cures all depression. I've worked with people at a homeless shelter coaching, and I've coached a lot of different people throughout the years. And there is clinical depression, no question about that. There is neurodepression, no question about that, chemical and otherwise. But for a lot of us, it's simply that we've allowed our thinking to run the gamut. We've allowed our thinking to take over. Now, people say to me all the time, Dermot, how do I stop myself from thinking? And I say to them, you can't. You can't stop thoughts from coming into your head. Unless you're a yogi in the Himalayas, sitting on top of a mountain in samadhi. Then it's possible. But for the 5 yogis that are out there in the world, good luck, lads. Well done. For there's 7 billion of us, we can't stop our thoughts. Not possible. But what you can do is you can start to notice your thoughts. Oh, I'm thinking way too much right now. Let me get into some action. Let me clean the sink. Let me take out the trash. Let me take my attention away altogether. You don't say, I got to stop myself thinking. Because you ever notice when you try to stop yourself thinking, you just think more? It's like Einstein said, how could you ever possibly imagine of solving the problem on the level that it was created? In the same way that how could you possibly ever try to solve a problem by worrying about it? It's not possible. I asked earlier, I'll ask this question again because it's a really good one. Well, actually, maybe I didn't ask this. When are the times when you get your great ideas? When are the times when you get your great ideas? Is it when you're worrying? No, never. I've never gotten a good idea by worrying. All I've gotten is a headache and a pain in my belly and a pain in my leg. Stress is simply worry gone amok. You're worrying too much. You're believing your thoughts. You're believing what your obsessed thinking, your thoughts in your head are telling you. And they're not true. The thoughts come and go. We live in a universe of thought. We live in a universe created by thought. Thoughts come and go 1,000 times a day, 100,000 times a day. You've just got to choose which thought do you want to interact with. But I can't turn off my thoughts, Dermot. Sure you can. You just take your mind away from the obsessive thinking and you put it on something you'd like to do. A piece of music, play the guitar, take a walk, whatever it might be. You see, the thing here, everyone, to remember is that we try to stop our thinking. We try to stop our thinking by thinking more about our thinking. And it cannot work. It's not possible. Now, when you notice that you're thinking and you're thinking about your thinking, you can take a breath. Okay, hey, I'm thinking way too much right now. Let me go and do something completely different. Let me go give my wife a hug. Let me go hug the cat. Or maybe feed the cat. Do something completely different. So the question, when are the times when you get your great ideas? Not when you're worrying, not when you're stressed, not when you're obsessively thinking about something. Maybe you're in the shower. I get some good ones in there because you're relaxed. I get some great ideas and thoughts about different things when I'm out walking. And usually I just, by the way, if you're stressed and obsessed and in your head, take off your shoes and socks, put them in the sand, put them on the ground, put them on concrete. Concrete is grounded through rods in the earth, so it's grounded. It's a great way. There's a lot of science behind grounding. It's a great way to just kind of pull the energy from your head down a little bit out of your head into your body. Take your shoes and socks off, put them on the grass. So ask yourself, when do you get your best creative ideas for making money, for whatever the project might be that you're working up? When do you get your best ideas? Take a moment and answer that for yourself. Life wasn't meant to be crazy. It wasn't meant to be weird. Life is a delicious opportunity to take thoughts or to turn thoughts into things. Things that we want, things that we need, things that we think we need, things that we want to create, so on and so on and so on. Life is a delicious opportunity to turn thoughts into things. So let me share these 7 questions with you, and then we're going to go for a break, getting up to the top of the hour here. And we'll be back for a few minutes after the hour just to finish off the show. Usually we're on a one hour slot for the content of the show, and then we play a lot of Irish music afterwards. But we're going to go over today about 5 or 10 minutes. So stay with us, because I'm going to share 3 valuable questions you can ask yourself after the break. But before that, let's share with you 7 questions to solve all your problems. All right, here we go. Question number 1. Let's take a problem that you have, any problem that you have whatsoever. And don't think about the problem. Put your feet flat on the floor. Relax your belly. Remember, anytime that you want to solve a problem, go for a walk, move your body. Put your feet flat on the floor, look up and out as opposed to looking down. When you look down, you activate the reptilian brain, which is your fight or flight brain. No good for solving problems. You want to activate your neocortex, and you do that by looking up and out a little bit. Looking out into a vast sea of opportunity, of infinite possibilities, but not with your reptilian brain. All right. So take that problem that you have, and you can do this now at home, or you can listen to the recording later, and you can write these questions down and then apply it to whatever problem you've got going on. And by the way, if you've got problems going on in your head before you go to bed at night, simply write out the problem before you get into bed. Write it on a sheet of paper. If I have a real problem in my head that I'm just obsessing about, I write it on a piece of paper before I get to bed. Before I get into the bed, so I don't take it into my consciousness in bed. And I usually get a dream, or I usually get some idea during the night, or in the morning. I wake up and I get the idea. It just hits me what the solution is. It's a great, great technique. All right. So take that problem, whatever problem you have, and ask yourself. Now, you can use this for small problems and then use it for big problems. Try it out on some small problems first. Don't take the biggest problem you have and use these questions. Try it out first. Rome wasn't built in a day. Okay. Number one, what's one thing I can possibly learn, that I could possibly learn from this problem? Second question, what's one thing that could be a positive in all of this? What's one thing that might be, just might be, a small positive in all of this? Maybe there's two small positives. If there is, write them out. If this problem was solved, what would I be experiencing? So just for a moment, say you could wave a magic wand. Act as if the problem was already solved. What would you be experiencing? Joy, peace, love, freedom, financial abundance, whatever it might be. Write that down. Here's the next question. What's not perfect yet? Now notice that I didn't ask what's wrong with this problem that I've got to fix. Because usually when you ask a silly question, you get a silly answer. When you ask a closed-ended question, you get a closed-ended answer. So these questions are all open-ended. They're open-ended in terms of they're there to inspire, to ignite some exploration in your mind as opposed to a yes or a no. Okay, next question. How might you begin to move towards a solution or a direction? So how might you begin to move towards some type of a solution? Or in what direction do you want to start moving towards to a solution? Next question. What's one thing you already know how to do to create this solution? What's one thing you already know how to do to create a solution here? Maybe you can call a friend and he's had this problem himself, and you can call him up and ask him, hey, what did you do? Or maybe you already know what to do, but you're just afraid to take the action. Take the action anyway. Put yourself out there. See what you discover. A lot of us take so much time worrying about stuff, we take no action. Take the action. It will cut that worry off in a heartbeat. And it'll give you some feedback as to what action to take after that. All right, final question. What will you not do that will make this better? Now, that's kind of a tricky one, isn't it? What will you not do that will make this situation better? And what it means is, I won't compromise on my value of integrity in order to make this better. Sometimes we will compromise, or we will do things that we're like, I don't really feel that this is good to do, but I'll do it anyway because I know it'll get the result. What will you not do that could or would or will make this situation a little bit better or move you in the direction of a solution? All right, we're up at the top of the hour here. Let's take a little station ID, and we'll be right back in just a minute. Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly on KOWS LP 92.5 FM Occidental. And if you're listening to us on the world and wacky and World Wide Web, we are at KOWS.FM. F for Frank, M for Matilda. Special effects at no extra charge. That's supposed to meant to be a cow. It kind of sounds like a pregnant duck, but it's meant to be a cow. Anyway. What can I tell you? All right, before we finish up our show today. We've got about 5 minutes left in the show, and I'm going to share just 2 or 3 little questions to ask yourself around this start making money and stop worrying. Let's turn it around and just say start making money. We'll even get rid of the stop worrying. But before all of that, you know him as Seamus O'Brien. He's the leprechaun on our show, and he's here every week, and he does a little thing every week called the top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know. And every week it's totally different. It's top 11 things about men, about women, about life, about money, about stress, about whatever it might be. I'm going to have Seamus introduce this, and because I see him over there, Seamus, what are you doing over there? You're meant to be over at the mic here. You coming over to the mic, or what are you doing?
Oh yeah, I'll be there in a minute there, Dermot. I'm just finishing up here, having me breakfast.
Seamus, it's 2 o'clock in the day. How in the paddy wagger are you having your breakfast at 2 o'clock in the day?
Well, I didn't get up till 1 o'clock, so technically I'm still having me breakfast.
Well, Seamus, are you going to do the top 11 list, or are you going to have your breakfast? What's the story here, Rory?
Yeah, no, I'm on my way. Hang on a second, Dermot. I'll be right there now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Seamus O'Brien, the lucky leprechaun. He's the Seamus. I don't want to call you the token. I keep calling you the token leprechaun, but you're the only leprechaun that I know of in America. I don't know that there's any more.
Yeah, I wish you'd bloody stop calling me the token leprechaun. Gets on me nerves.
All right, Seamus. We'll not call you that anymore. Are you ready to do the show?
Yeah, come over there. Hang on a second.
All right, come on over here now, Seamus. All right, so down there now. All right, do you want me that? Let's put that microphone a little lower.
Yeah, that'd be good.
There, that's perfect. Don't touch it. All right, I won't touch it, Seamus. But all right, you all good? You're good. Okay, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. You take it away, Seamus. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Seamus O'Brien here on the Celtic Coach Radio Show. A talk show just for men and all things manly. And if you're listening on KOWS.FM, I think I got that right there, but yeah. All right, here we go. Top 11 list. The top 11 things you absolutely do not need to know about life. Now, in case you're wondering why it's a top 11, well, all those other talk shows have top 10s. We're Irish. We do one better. It's kind of like that. Do you remember that Spinal Tap movie where the thing goes up to 11? Yeah, well, that's like our show. All right, top 11 things. Here we go. Number 11. In the 60s, people took acid to make the world weird. Now we take Prozac to make the world look normal. So true, so true. Number 10. Why is it that women have nothing to wear and their closet is full of clothes? I've often wondered about that. The missus at home, she says, I have nothing to wear. And I look in the closet and it's full of clothes. I think to myself, am I dreaming right now? Maybe I'm not seeing. Maybe the closet is empty. I'm just, I'm imagining the clothes. Number 9. When your lady says nothing is wrong, she means everything is wrong. And you'll need to turn into Sherlock Holmes to figure it all out, let me tell you that. If you want to figure out your women, just become Sherlock Holmes. After that, it's easy. Number 8. The word woman came from Wyfman. Yeah, W-Y-F-M-A-N, meaning wife. Now, that's interesting now, but you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I reckon that the word woman came from 2 Irish men sitting around, having a beer, having a cigarette, and the first time that they saw a woman, the Irish lad turned to the other Irish lad and said, "Whoa, man." And so she became known as a woman. That's just I could be totally wrong on that one. All right, number 7. The best things in life are free. Yeah, for everything else, use money. Number 6. 'Tis better to give than receive. So please send all your cash and your checks to Seamus O'Brien, 685 Bloomfield Road, somewhere over the rainbow. Number 5. Oh, Jesus, now this is pretty interesting. And true too. Men were the first to wear high heels in the 1600s. And women began wearing them to look more masculine. Very interesting. True. Would you believe it? I would. Number 4. Isn't it funny that men will go to war at the drop of a hat, and yet they'll cry at the thought of a bikini wax? Shudder at the thought of a bikini wax. Yeah, well, the ladies, they're a lot more braver. They're braver than us men, I have to say. Number 3. Ladies, did you know that men... this is very true. This happens to me all the time, actually. Ladies, did you know that men slip into a coma every time that you go to the fitting room? Yeah, it's very true. Every time, as soon as the wife turns around and is going to the fitting room, I slip into a coma. And then when she comes out, I slip back out of the coma and walk away with her. Yeah, happens every time. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah. There's I don't know if you've heard about this new perfume. Yeah. It's a new perfume to attract men. Yeah. It's a new perfume. It's called Beer and Football. Yeah. Women just spray it on themselves. And it attracts men. Yeah, crazy. All right. Top 11 things. The top 11, the number one thing you absolutely do not need to know about life is this. Have you ever wondered why in the heck it takes over 100 million male sperm to fertilize only one female egg? I figured it out, ladies and gentlemen. Because not one of them will stop to ask for directions. Yeah, men are like that. When we're on our way to somewhere, we have no time to stop. We must get there. All right, I'm Seamus O'Brien. You've been listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show, just for men and all things manly. All right, good luck. Cheers. All right, Seamus. Well done, Seamus. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Seamus O'Brien there with the top 11 list. Well done, Seamus. That was a pretty good one today, Seamus. I was quite impressed with that one. You wrote that one yourself?
No, I didn't write it. My neighbour, Matilda, she wrote it.
Your neighbour, Matilda? I'm not even going to get into that with you, Seamus. Anyway, great show. Well done, Seamus.
Thanks very much, Dermot. It's about time you said something nice to me.
Well, Christmas is coming, Seamus. Christmas is coming. You may even get something nicer. All right, let's wrap up the show, everyone. We've got about 5 minutes left in our show, so let's wrap it up. I want to wrap it up by asking you a question. There's a lot of men and women out there with dreams that they want to fulfill, that dreams they want to express, that dreams they want to bring into manifestation, fruition, however you want to call it. Let's just suppose for a moment that this idea of life being a delicious opportunity to just turn thoughts into things. And let's just suppose for a moment that you could start to move in a direction of thinking, acting, and creating just for fun, not for results. The results will come. And let's just suppose that you could worry less and start taking a little bit more action. As some of the ideas, some of the move towards, some of the solutions for how to stop worrying and start making some more money. Nothing wrong with money. Money is great. I love money. My dear mother, she used to always say to us, "Derby, being broke is not something to be ashamed of. It's just an inconvenience." And I used to think, gosh, Mum, how inconvenienced are we? Ah, yes, they were the days. All right, so here's the question. What would you or could you create if you had no agenda? Now, you can think about a project and you can ask, okay, what is this project going to look like? You know, you can ask these 4 questions. What do you want? Why do you want it? What will it look like when I'm finished? And then how do I start moving towards it? There are 4 planning questions that you can ask, but I want to even go a little bit deeper than that. Let's say that you have a dream to do something, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't change the way you're doing things, if you don't change the way you're looking at things, if you don't start to move in that direction of what you want, if you don't do that, where will you be 1 year from now? Where will you be 5 years from now? And let's say you continue down this road of no action, of no creating, of no allowing, of no moving in the direction that you want to move in. You're stopped by worry. Where will you be 10 years from now? What will be the price that you will pay of not going for your dreams? And I can tell you the price of regret is very, very high. Do you ever wonder? I was excuse me. I was out walking this morning, and I sat down in the grass, and I saw this little bee come along, and I thought to myself, "Wow, that guy is busy." That's not a joke, by the way. And I said, I thought, you know, why is it that a bee doesn't worry about how much honey he will make? And the answer is really simple, because he's too busy making honey. He's too busy acting to worry. And besides, that's what bees do. They pollinate and they make honey. Well, we're designed to do the exact same thing. We're designed to be creators. We're not designed to be worriers. That's why we have so much health stuff in the world. Because we were never designed to be worriers. Now, I want to share one little more piece. We were designed, as the great Sid Banks said, and if you don't know who he is, look him up. Sid Banks, S-Y-D Banks. He was a Scottish welder who lived in Canada and had an enlightenment experience. And he said, you know, we all have innate health, which means that we have built within our system innate health. In the same way that when you throw a pebble into a pool of water, it ripples, worry, but then at some point the pool settles. So you don't have to do anything about your worrying. It will settle all by itself. Do you ever notice that? When you're sitting and you're calm, you're relaxed, you're looking out at whatever, you're reading a book, you're settled. Getting a thought and then thinking about it and then worrying about it and revving it up, that's like getting into your car and having your 1 foot on the brake and 1 foot on the gas pedal. That's what worry is like. And when we take our foot off the gas pedal and the brake, the car naturally comes back to its own ticking over beautifully. We have that built into us to do the exact same thing. We have that built innate health in us. That's why laughter is such a beautiful medicine. That's why playing with kids, you know, as the great guru said, be ye as little children. Children don't worry about their next meal. They don't worry about where the money's going to come from. Oh, yeah, I know. Well, they're kids, Dermot. Life hasn't gotten a hold of them yet. But the only reason that they start to worry is because they see us doing it. And they think, oh, well, that's what grown-ups do, so I should be like the grown-up. Let me start worrying. We've got to be able to come to a place of understanding, everyone. And I'm pointing in this direction for you to see it at some point. You may already see it in your life. If not, you will. Through having these conversations, to listening to these shows. That the nature of thought, or the nature of the human experience, is that a thought comes in and we allow that thought to get bigger. And then we start to act upon that thought. That creates our reality. Thought plus action. But where we get caught up is that we start to look past the thought and the action into the result. What are we going to get from doing this? What am I going to get from having that? And money is a big one. And money, most people think that money creates value. It doesn't. Money is a means to value. They don't experience the value of money in the same way that you don't experience money. You experience your thinking of money. You don't experience the world. You experience your thinking of the world. And you can change your thoughts and your thinking about the world in a heartbeat. We don't experience our projects. We experience our thinking about our projects. When we can simply allow our projects to be projects and have fun with them. Now, if you're at home and you're like, yeah, this is all great, Dermot, but I don't have any money to feed the kids or to make rent this month. I get that. I totally get that. I've been there. Oh gosh, many, many times. But what I would say to you is, start looking in the direction that you want to go. Start asking some bigger questions so you get bigger answers. One of the things we tend to do when we worry is we worry about all the things that we cannot do, we're not doing, we should do. And simply by asking yourself, what's one thing that I can do? What's one thing that I could do? What's one thing that I might be able to do here? What's one thing that I know what to do, how to do it, that's going to move me in that direction? See, we don't have to turn off our thoughts, our thinking. We just got to point ourselves in the direction that we want to go and be okay with that. Be okay with just moving in the direction that you want to go. But we think, well, I've got to be going faster, Dermot. I've got to be going, I've got to get to that egg as quickly as possible and not ask for any directions. That's why it takes 100 million. Instead of noticing that, hey, built into our system is success. Built into our system is creativity. And when we can slow it down a bit and relax into it, that has a space and a place to flourish. But when we're squeezing tight, when we got the hand in the cookie jar and we're holding on to that cookie, very hard to get the cookie and the hand out of the cookie jar. We've got to let go of it. And then just take the jar and roll the cookie out into our palm. The same is what can be said around the nature of thought. We allow those thoughts to come in. We engage with the ones that we want to engage with. And the ones we don't, we don't. But don't try to stop your thinking. It doesn't work. Simply point yourself in the direction that you want to go. You've heard the old quote of, why do angels fly? Because they take themselves so lightly. A little bit of that would be good for us to remember. And you're not alone in this, everyone. Everyone does this. That's the nature of the human experience, is to worry. The nature of the human experience. Well, I don't know if it's the nature, but it's certainly a habit of the human experience is to stress about things. And when we can see that stress and worry is just a form of our thinking, then we can start to relax. We don't have to push up against everything in order to change it. Change is inevitable. Change happens. Just ask the caterpillar. He'll tell you. Charlie the caterpillar. I'll have him on next week. I'll ask him for you. Change is inevitable. Things are going to change. Your life is going to change. That is the nature of life. It's been an absolute honor, as with each show that I do every week, to bring you the show this week. So I hope that you enjoyed the show, and I hope that you take something away from the show that would be of service, that would be of benefit, that would support you in some way to move in the direction of your dreams. We all have dreams, all of us. Even the clients that tell me they don't have dreams, rubbish. We all have dreams, and you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to do it all in one day. You just got to point yourself in the direction that you want to go and start moving gently, slowly, beautifully, wonderfully, childlike in that direction. And magic happens. And I share that from my own experience because I know it to be true. Magic happens. I'm the Celtic Coach. You've been listening to the Celtic Coach Radio Show, an Irish talk show just for men and all things manly on KOWS 92.5 FM, Occidental, California. You're listening on the World Wide Web. It's at KOWS.FM. F for Frank, M for Matilda. I'm the Celtic Coach. Think big, have fun, stay curious. We'll talk soon. Cheers. That, my dear